So one of the things I want to talk about is when you start getting into collapse, there are people that are they're waiting. There are people that just cannot wait to get your eyes on their videos and just do their level best to scare the absolute bejesus out of you, and then conveniently sell you a bunch of stuff. I want to talk about very briefly the prepper people. You'll know the videos when you see them. They're either in front of a wall of random weapons that none of which they know how to use. They're walking around it with sunglasses along some lake or something. There's a bunch of videos, a bunch of people, and it's all clickbait. It's ending, we're done, I'm leaving, it's happening, oh my God, you have 3 days. And you can go back years, and they've been doing the same titles for years, and they'll say it's because I have to do that for marketing. Okay, just so happens that a lot of those same people make money scaring the pants off people. So these people are often they're capitalizing on fear that people have stirred up within themselves. Like, you start reading about all of these different subjects that tie together, like climate change, oil dependence, what we're doing to the ocean. There's all kinds of things that you could be concerned with. And then they start to conglomerate, and you have a even bigger problem that you're worried about. So they're taking those people and saying, okay, the world's ending. You need to get ready for the end of the world. Or they're literally just creating that fear. Either way, it's a kind of a chicken and the egg thing. I don't know which comes first, but either way, they're not doing good work. They're not trying to help people. First thing I would always question is, are they selling something? Because if they're selling something, it seems like they're just helping themselves. I know none of them would want to think of themselves doing that, but probably is. There's a difference between disaster preparation. Everybody should do that. Becoming more resilient in case there's a disaster. You are less reliant on other people to help. That way, the aid that comes into an area goes to people that weren't ready for it. And the more people that are resilient and able to handle things themselves, the more that aid can go to people that needed it more. And then there's the people that are getting ready for the end of the world, the zombie apocalypse, the full-on undoing of society that they like to talk about. When you see somebody talking about the end of the world, it's usually from a kind of selfish narrative of disaster. They're never talking about talking to your neighbors. They're telling you to stash a bunch of stuff and don't tell anybody, because if you tell anybody, they're going to come take your stuff. In most disasters, community is what saves people. If you're in an earthquake and your building crumbles and you're trapped in that building, the people that are going to dig you out are most likely the people you live next to. And that's time and time again the way it's been. In disasters throughout the world, people like to bring up things like Katrina, when a bunch of people got shot and things went really horribly. On a wide scale, when everything goes bad and nobody has time to prepare and people don't heed the warnings to leave, yeah, it can get really brutal. But in any other situation, it's almost always groups of people that start to organize and help themselves before anybody else outside helps them. The North Carolina post-hurricane videos I saw talked a lot about, there's a bunch of different groups of people, usually centered around either a church or some other social group. And very often that is what motivated people to start to come together, share what they have, find ways to get out of the area so that people could come in to help. And those organizations were all built they were almost from there's a term, emergence, that comes from, it's the opposite of entropy. Like, things tend to become more disorganized as things go on. But emergence is one of those things where people or systems can almost self-organize. You know, you don't necessarily have to have somebody out there putting it all together. Sometimes people just all know what needs to be done, and then they come together with what the skills they have and the resources they have, and they divide things up in a way that is beneficial for everybody. For so long in human history, we've survived in relatively small groups of people that organized for the benefit of their group. We have this ability. We're very social animals. And to constantly say that we're 3 meals from, an apocalypse, there is some truth to that. Because when you build a society that is so dependent on everything working perfectly, it doesn't take much to disrupt the system. But when you build a society that is resilient, that doesn't rely on up to the, for example, grocery stores only have maybe 3 or 4 days worth of food. In a disaster, they can get cleaned out in a day. It's impressive. I've seen it. Not entirely, but all the bread, all the milk, huge chunks of the aisle just gone when people panic. And most warehouses only carry enough to get them through a few days or a week. It's called just-in-time delivery. We've built an entire society that is built to be as efficient as humanly possible without ever considering the fact that efficiency is bad in a disaster. Because it means there's no surge ability, there's no extra, there's no just in case amount. There's a day or two worth of water, for example, and when people panic, it's gone in hours. So if you can build a society that is more resilient and can take care of itself a little bit better, then those resources can go to people that need it much more. And one thing I will say, a lot of these people are convinced the end of the world is coming any day. And the thing is, people have always been saying that forever. For as long as there's been a society, there's been people in the street screaming about how everything's coming, whether it's a religious judgment or the apocalypse or a comet or something. There's always something on its way to undo everything. That is a basic fear that we have because we live in a place that doesn't have extra, that we know that there is only so much to go around. And then there's a panic about that. If you go back a few hundred years, most people knew how to grow their own food. How many people know that now? We're all aware of the lack of survival skills that we have, and that comes out in a fear that you're not going to just be able to go to the grocery store and buy whatever you need. This could all just keep limping on for years in the broken state that it is. So nothing is inevitable and nothing is happening tomorrow necessarily. So when you get into this, if you start wanting to be more prepared, to be more resilient, don't just buy a bunch of stuff out of panic. Absolutely think about what you're going to buy, make lists, plan, decide what you're planning for, first of all, before you do anything. If you want a disaster kit, great. If you want to go set up a go bag, cool. If you want some amount of food, just in case, also, it's great. You can do things very easily. You can start buying extra cans of food when they're on sale. You can buy whatever you buy, anything that's shelf stable. When it's on sale, buy a few extra. You can start building up surplus with almost no money. And these are all things that you can do without buying a meal kit that's going to last 20 years maybe, and then you're going to try to use it and it's trash because you bought it off of a TV show or something. As long as you rotate those items, you can have a larger pantry and rotate through stuff, and you'll always have a bunch of food on hand just in case. As much as you can, do stuff that you can incorporate into your daily life. It's one thing to buy a big, let's say a bunch of freeze-dried food. It's another thing like to just let it sit in your closet forever, and hopefully you don't need it, but also it's a whole bunch of money when you could just buy more daily food. If you're getting ready for the end of the world, I'm here to tell you, you probably don't want to live through that anyway. Ask people that have been to war zones where it is literally just apocalypse level horrible, and ask them if they'd like to live there without the US supply chain coming to feed them. Like, there are some truly horrible places. If that's everywhere, you probably don't want to live through that anyway. And another thing I will say, if you start getting into this and you want to become more resilient, don't forget to enjoy things. I don't care if you think that the world is actually coming to an end soon, which it could. There's just no reason to worry at that kind of level if you can't enjoy some things every now and then. If your only mission in life is to concern yourself with the end of the world, you really need to take a look at what you have right in front of you. And if that's not worth enjoying, maybe deal with that first, because it's not going to get better if things fall apart. Like, you're not going to be in a cabin somewhere with a pile of freeze-dried food and a water filter and a pile of firewood by yourself, and you're not going to be happy about that. I mean, maybe you are, but you can just do that now if you are, if you're into that sort of thing. But it's not going to get better. So don't live your life in the future in that disaster. Do things to prepare, but stay where you are and find ways to enjoy daily life. Otherwise, it's just not going to be worth it to get to the end of the world. And one thing that a lot of people will do is try to convince you that you need to not tell anybody, and that everybody is your enemy and everybody will be out to get you and they want to steal your stuff. I mean, I understand the fear there, but it's just not true. And it's not how things typically go. Try to invite other people into your plans, whether it's family, a friend group, a church group, social group. The more prepared everybody is, then things like disasters are no problem. And the end of the world is going to be a problem regardless. So I would highly recommend you invite other people into your plans. Don't do this like you're going to survive in a basement somewhere and you're going to be happy doing that by yourself. And ironically, these people talk about self-sufficiency, but in a total collapse, like if you're by yourself, it makes things more complicated. Like, I knew these two people that were both kind of getting ready for the end of the world. One had a handful of guns and one had probably 24 rifles. And they would have these arguments about, like, what do you do when everything goes SHTF, when the collapse happens. And, one was going to walk out of Seattle and the other was going to try to throw all their guns in a car and drive out. And I'm like, first of all, you're going to walk. Okay. You're not going to run into anybody with more guns than you between here and wherever you're going. And if you think you're going to drive, you're absolutely out of your mind, because there's nothing but bridges and narrow lane highways between here and everywhere. You'd be better off trying to steal a boat. But I don't understand most people's versions of what they think the end of the world's going to look like. And not all disasters are the kind that you can flee. If a large enough collapse happens fast enough, you could have a hard time getting out of a city. There could be just panic immediately. It is so much more useful to have a group. When you come across these things, it's not like you can't learn from them. There are plenty of people that are survivalists and prepper people. They have a lot of skills, and a lot of them have acquired a lot of skills, basically counting on the fact that the world is going to completely unfold at some point. You can absolutely learn plenty. Just don't buy into the every disaster means that it's going to be cannibalism overnight. It's just not the way it works. Look into things like mutual aid. Look into getting to know your community. I just had a group, they flyered our neighborhood, and it was basically just a group, a tea, like bring some tea or bring something to drink, and a way to meet your neighbors. So we all met in an alley, and for most of these people, it was the first time I ever met them. I lived in that neighborhood for 10 years, but I knew their house, or I knew their car, or I knew their dog. Get to know the people that are in your neighborhood, or if you live in a small town, get to know the people in your town. Get to know the people on your road. It will be super handy if things go sideways. In a disaster, it's absolutely necessary. And it's so much more likely that you're going to have a disaster than the full-on end of the world. So beware when you get into the subject. Do not listen to people that want to crank you up and scare the piss out of you. Just learn what you can, prepare what you can, and then live your life. And then do your level best to enjoy things, because if you don't, then what's the point of any of it? I'll see you in the next one.